Hello and welcome. This is second episode of Economics 10x10. This is a video series that we are doing for the launch of Eqonomix, which is a diversity recruitment firm. Today we have with us Parmesh Shahani, whose introduction I'm not going to do, who I'm going to ask to invite. Yeah, Queeristan. Everybody knows it, but yet we are going to talk more about it. And Parmesh, as most of you all know, head the Godrej Culture Lab, has been an author for Gay Bombay, now Queeristan, has almost changed the queer, diversity representation in Indian workplaces for good. Yeah. So
that's enough of an introduction. That's good enough.
Good enough.
Let's go.
We live with it. So, how did
everyone watching? I have known Praful for many years, and Praful only gets younger and younger. So, if we have time at the end of this, we have to say, "Aapke beauty ka kya raaz hai?" If we have some time, maybe Praful, you can.
My mom and dad can maybe reveal some secrets that are embedded in their DNA that they passed it on to me.
But I remember your mom and dad carry a dabba with you and follow you at all your events, waiting at corners to feed you the dabba. I remember that very much from the Vivid job fair.
That is when they are there, right? At Vivid, they had to do it because general events are okay, na? General events, I'm on the console, I have 5 people doing things, I'm not micromanaging, running around, right? So they don't have to do it. General event, they are sitting on the side and I'm like, Acha, did you get this? Did you get that? Blah, blah, blah. Here, they know that since it is my baby and I am going to be all around it pushing, then they are like, I'm sure you have not eaten. I've carried something from home.
So regular nutrition, everyone who's watching, have your parents bring a dabba and
so this is like a 3-year-old, 2-year-old child, behind whom they run. So they are like, this one is not going to listen to anything and going to have, and I'm going to see parents being parents.
Of course.
So that is in Queeristan. We plugged it, and now we are also asking how Queeristan happened.
So Queeristan happened after the 2018 judgment. As you know, right, there was so much momentum happening before the judgment. But once the judgment came, I kind of figured that, we are going to need a manual, at least in the corporate world, to take a lot of the efforts that were happening in the 10 years or so, even before the judgment. And you know, Praful, because you've been working in this space now for 20 years. So much work has been happening even before this 2018 judgment, right? But we knew that once this happens, it will unleash the positive energy that so many other companies have who were fence sitters, who had their hearts in the right place, but maybe who didn't know what to do or were afraid. So Queeristan happened primarily so that I could share, some best practices from, again, friends from all over, the country and other parts of the world, work that was already happening, inspiring people I'd met along the way. Kind of package a business book, which is very basically 4 reasons to be inclusive, 6 steps you can take, but packaged with full-on Bollywood masala, songs, dances, foreign detours here and there, my love life, elders of the queer movement, everything. So I was like, it's time to put this business book out in the world, but also in a manner that people can read it, enjoy it, and then hopefully use it. So it happened out of a need that I felt, in our community. Yeah.
So representation-wise, what happens with that is something as simple as the whole diverse spectrum that you represent in India, in any which way, the colors, the flavors, the sounds, everything is so rich. There is so much of storytelling around it, any which way. And when you are weaving things with that, it comes out so much more interesting, and it comes out so much more, it has life of its own. It's activated. So what was the difference between creation of Gay Bombay, which is your first book?
Yeah.
Plug where I was there again, but not with
you were, yeah.
Rebellion of whatever kinds. And
so for those watching, Praful has been part of all my books so far.
So I know that one of them was your PhD, project called Disco Jalebi.
Correct. So Gay Bombay was a master's thesis, actually.
Yes. See?
The difference between the two was very stark. In the first one, I was in my 20s. I'm 44 now. I was trying very hard with Gay Bombay to kind of create my own voice and establish myself. So I think Gay Bombay, while a very pure book, was more pretentious in its writing and it's trying to impress in so many other things. By the time Queeristan came about, I mean, I think my academic ambitions have kind of fallen by the side. I was like, I'm never going to become a professor, which means thank God. So now I can write like, casual, better, using my own voice, using slang, using English. So, I'm older, I'm more confident, and I also care less about what other people think. I think that comfort came through in the book, because Queeristan reads, to me, it reads like a lighter, and it's not a less serious book, but because I take myself less seriously, it's an easier book, it's a lighter book. And I enjoyed writing it much more, I would say.
So I will say the functionality of both is very different. One.
Yeah.
The academic part is heavy, obviously, in Gay Bombay, because that was where you were, right?
Yeah.
And that might have been the need of our back then, and only catering to a certain piece, because I see it as your Swadesh, right? Because I was listening to that song and I'm like, hey, I'm talking to Parmesh, I should remind him that that was kind of a repeating theme.
And I came back after writing that.
So you left your NASA and MIT and all of those mightier things that were there. And in humble Vikhroli, where the journey is.
Viva Vikhroli, darling.
Viva Vikhroli with green tea, etc. So now coming to the role as somebody who champions diversity hiring, right? Because if you have very visibly, vocally hired for cultural labs from the community, I don't remember anybody else before that specifically asking for resources from the community to create something. And today, while there's a noise of lived experiences count and people understand the nuance of why, coming from a certain background helps in creating content, culture, whatever manifestation that happens. You started it, right? What excites you about diversity hiring? What excited you back then? What it does today?
So I think, first of all, at Godrej, we've hired across the group, not just at the Culture Lab, on various, dimensions of diversity. LGBTQ is important to me personally, but even there, and not everyone that we might have hired is out. But they take the benefits that we offer, and they've chosen to be closeted, and that's completely okay and their choice as well, right? So what excites me about diversity hiring right now, as opposed to say 10 years before when everyone was kind of getting off the blocks, is that right now actually there's a whole ecosystem in place, right? I write in the book about how, even 5 years back, to imagine one queer job fair was so difficult. But suddenly I'm flying from one queer job fair to another. It's ridiculous. Like suddenly in 1 year, I'm going from Rise to Vivid to here to there. It's like suddenly there's so many job fairs and all are doing well. That's my thing. Yeah.
And diversity, as we understand, interpret it, will have more subsets, right? So not just LGBTQ, not just gender, not just sexuality, ages,
caste, PWDs, age, so many different.
All origins, everything.
My point is that this ecosystem is really, really expanding, and that's what excites me today, right? There are startups like yours, for example, or Periphery, which is placing trans people. Organizations like Diversity Dialogues that Ritesh and Madhumita started get kind of morph into startups because they recognize the startup potential and so on. So, Pride Circle starts in one way, then morphs into this multi-platform thing. So, it's very, and whichever dimension now you look at, mental health, there are so many startups. Sensitivity training, so many startups, etc. So what excites me is that there's a full stack ecosystem being built around us, which means that anyone who, no one can have this excuse right now, ki we don't know what to do. Arey, just open your eyes. There's hundreds of things you can do, and there are hundreds of consultants. Just engage one of us and do it. And that really excites me today, because companies cannot hide behind this fig leaf of ki we don't know what to do and there's nothing here. You know, everything that you know what to do is out there, and everyone is here to help you. So, yeah.
So again, you know, the common, I won't say excuse, the dilemma that most of the CXOs, when they spoke one-on-one as peer, me being 100 years old, you've already declared that I've been working for 20 years in the LGBT circles. And
इस लाइन में 20 साल से है प्रफुल्ल.
Yeah, इस लाइन में आप कब से है वाला question, no? So that bit. So when you speak to anybody who's from a certain kind of background in decision making space within a corporate, mostly they would come and say that, hey, I do not know, even if I make an attempt, how will I belong to a certain kind of set of companies which have an inclusive culture, what to do with it, what to do when, how to take it forward. I don't have blah blah blah. So you've clearly said that between you and few others, there is enough material for somebody to look at as journey, and B, today the relevant avenues for everybody of every shape and size is there. What is your definition of belong? Because their definition, they can go and find it out. What is yours?
So I just say, प्रफुल्ल, हमें कुछ नहीं चाहिए. एक बात है, बारातियों का स्वागत पान पराग से होना चाहिए. No.
Shami Kapoor is squirming in his grave was not there, but yeah.
So on a more serious note, my definition of belonging is actually very much like that. हमें कुछ नहीं चाहिए, हमें सिर्फ ये चाहिए कि straight लोगों को भी अच्छा लगे. I think we will belong जब straight लोगों को भी ऐसा लगे कि हम भी equal organization में भाग ले रहे हैं. So my definition of belonging is when straight people feel as included as queer people in an organization on every dimension.
Absolutely.
Whether in policies, whether in in bringing their partners to work or declaring them, whether in having the same benefits. I think straight people should have the same benefits that everyone else has, and when they have, and when they feel that they have, and they can talk about it, that's when I feel everyone will belong.
Absolutely, they should not be denied.
And straight people are also humans. So, equal rights. So,
total. And so generally, the confusion also stems from straight people when they come. They are like, exact term क्या use करना चाहिए हमको? LGBTQ, LGBTQIA, LGBTQ++, LGBTQXYZ, blah blah blah. The alphabet soup that keeps on emerging and changing. So for somebody to understand it, when they are not, again, part of the ecosystem and learning from it and blah, and as an outsider, it's really perplexing. So that is the first thing, because people are scared कि कहीं मैं किसी को offend नहीं कर दूं, मैं उल्टा बोल दिया, and that's not my intent, and that should not come across like that. Yeah, let me not look disrespectful. But when we look at it inside, our perspective is very different because it comes from knowing. It doesn't come from a speculation space, right? We know each of these nuances, and we are knowing them every day as it emerges. We are witness to it. So, what are your views on the alphabet soup, on all of these nomenclatures, how vital or how trivial or how to look at it?
No, I think it's important, but I think, again, if someone says, I say, कुछ भी कहो लेकिन प्यार से कहो, and I mean, if people are ignorant, it's, one can work with them. So if someone uses a wrong term or someone doesn't, I correct them with great love and affection. Because quite honestly, I'm also on a learning journey. I think we all are.
Yeah.
So much has changed around identities, understanding identities, the various terms we use for our identities, even for us over the years. So we are also constantly learning. And I think the identity terms, LGBTQIA, whatever, whether linked to gender and sexuality, are not only for queer people.
Yeah.
These are terms straight people also use. So these are not terms that are exclusively for, say, the queer community, right? Straight people also might be right? They might say I'm cisgendered, I'm heterosexual. These are also terms that straight people might use, right? So I think it's a learning experience that we all have to go with love and affection, understanding that it's a learning journey that we'll all go on. We might make mistakes. Let us affectionately correct each other on that. I'm a big fan of terms though, because I think when you find a term or when you find a word that you connect to, it's a world that you become a part of, right? So I don't think that there should be less terms. I think there should be an abundance of terms. And we should be able to mix, like with our food in our thali, like with bhel puris, we should be able to mix our identities with a composition of as many terms as we want.
Diversity all over again. When you're talking Queeristan, when you're talking ample choice in colors, in flavors, in sounds, in visuals, in expression.
But straight people also should have that pleasure and that privilege. I think we should just, with straight people, say, let's go on this journey together. But you'll be happy to know that there's a range of terms we all can use.
Multiple identities. It does not have to be around sexuality only. When there is so much else.
Yeah. But the best thing is just to say, how would you want me to call you? And here's how I would like you to call me. It's quite simple. It's
expressed, whatever expression there is, there has to be consent on it. Like, I would not go calling Parmesh something else because that's the name that...
Oh, I didn't tell you. Sorry. I want to be called Her Royal Highness, Maharani Parmesh. But that's fine in future.
I'll keep that in mind. And now coming back from the royalty to being a corporate slave.
To Girnar tea.
Totally. From Earl Grey to that. Generally in a working day, people think that your life is all, hunky-dory. And you have such great workplace and you have so much going for you because you've carved a niche. So, ab kya ho sakta hai? So, first, let's tell them what is the actual highlight of your day, the reality check, because that's needed generally. Because leadership-wise, I think we build all the castles and all the bridges from the stones that are pelted on us. Yeah. People don't realize that how that functions, but generally that is the case. So, what's the highlight of your working day?
No, of any working day, I think acknowledgement is for me, it's, when some young queer person somewhere, Bhubaneswar or like somewhere will send a message, either email or Instagram saying, off late, read your book, so useful, or heard you talk, or saw this video from the Culture Lab and it changed my life. To me, it's like, I really believe that, again, maybe it's a becoming older thing, but when I was younger, I wanted to change the whole world. And now I'm just happy with changing one or two lives or hoping that what I do can impact a few people. So my goals are like becoming more and more smaller.
Like out of all the Rumi and Buddha quotes that are there and memes that are there floating around, the one that resonates the max with me is when I was younger, I was out to change the world.
Yeah.
And when I'm older, all I have to change is me. Yeah. And it might not have been Buddha who said it, but pretty wise enough for me to remember it and go with it. And that approach resonates with me.
So to me, my highlight is anytime someone connects with me and says that your work has helped me, because that's why one does what one does, I suppose. Yeah.
Motivation is there. So what is the most challenging part of your working day now from the queer opinion leaders stand? Because nowadays it's imperative that A, we have opinions, B, we have opinions and we are distinct with it. Third, that they align with a certain part of our life. So queer opinion leaders, it's a big, mighty term and space that you're in. So what are the most challenging part of that?
So my challenges are always in just how to be patient, because there's so much ignorance and there's so much, I don't know how much of it is queer phobia or resentment or ignorance or what, but my challenge is just to be patient, because one is confronted often with these, and patterns begin to form, right? So anytime you talk about certain change, there will always be one person in the room who will say, let me play devil's advocate for a moment, and then whatever you're trying to propose, do away with it, right? And that comes out of that person's fear that you are trying to replace that person or take away that person's position, etc. Right? So, for example, every time I talk about gender reassignment surgery, to either people at Godrej or outside. Of course, now we have gender reassignment. It's part of our benefits that we offer, right? But when you propose it to someone else or whatever, there'll always be someone who will say, but what if we give this and then 100 trans people join us just to
avail of it,
just to avail of this benefit, and they leave us, And then you have to
that is how it works. Exactly how, right? People
how to have that patience, and then you have to. So I have to think. Now I think, right? It's so easy to get angry and say, "What do you know? Or what are you talking, man?" or whatever, right? But then you lose that moment of actually influence or to change that word. You say, sir, because it's mostly a sir. 20 years ago, people were talking like this about maternity leave also. People were saying, what if so many women join us just to take 6 months maternity leave? I think if you think about it, no one has a baby. No one will think of having a baby join an organization and then leave that organization because that organization has helped them through their pregnancy, right? In fact, it would be the opposite, no?
Like generally when corporate come to us and not everybody is from day one ready, and they don't understand the impact that they are having on certain lives, even as a support function for a transgender or a more vulnerable set from the diversity spectrum. Benefits will have to go in a certain manner, right? So when I speak to a corporate who's talking to us, figuring out in which direction their policies are, whether their hiring has to be in a certain manner, what they should use about it. It's a general day-to-day talk, right? When we are talking about recruitment platform. And when I say that 6 years is what you are supposed to look at generally when you're talking about trans life, because maybe 2 years pre, 2 years during, 2 years post, so 6 years is the kind of hand-holding period that you should look at for somebody. And, it's a good space if you're looking at a journey with a diverse candidate. Like 6 years from your side as a commitment would be 6 years from their side as a commitment, which is a great, career space to be with together for somebody that you are making so much change. You might not need to hire time and again and, do that whole effort and cost and XYZ and blah. And when that conversation comes out, either it really flies with most people, or it really goes like, no, 6 years is too much, dude. Like, what are you talking? So there are always those kind of things.
Yeah, but then you have to I would say you have to give parallel examples. You have to push. So, I mean, what frustrates me, since you said, right, what is the most challenging? What is most challenging for me is that seeing these patterns of bias that exist all around, and how to break through, how to say, how can I make you have empathy?
My understand is most of these are glass ceiling conversations from the gender space that have extended to the sexuality space, and people just blindly walk into them. So
these are the same people who will say, why are we giving women when they travel to small towns 100 rupees more in allowance for a better room or whatever, right? I mean, it's that, right? I mean,
20-year-old to 45-year-old cisgendered male, be it gay in private and straight in public. That is the ideal, Raja Beta syndrome is right there. Patriarchy in your face is there, sitting and talking in the room, and you are like, yes, please, yes, sir. I know I'm talking to your parents currently and not to you, but thank you.
But you can't get angry. So with me, one has to nudge, work, understand, use emotions, use data. So it's challenging because I just feel like maybe I could be doing something else instead of repeating myself for the 1,000th time. But what to do?
Now it is FAQs and infographics age, and we go equipped generally with a certain latest data point from where a person would be interested to hear it from. If they want to hear it from the McKinsey report, there it is. If they want to hear it from some source that is closer to their heart and their ethics and their kind of ecosystem, we go with that, and we are more than happy to speak to people in the language of their comfort, because the idea is of empathy in a certain manner. And if you're there to make that difference, like you said, that opportunity will be lost if we are angry. I have been angry enough for a whole lot of my life, where I have been labeled activist, where I am an advocate of a certain space, and that's my role. I am not here to take morchas always. It is a function of advocacy for certain rights that took that road, and now I think in other direction we can do it. And 377 now is history.
Yeah.
So now, top 3 inclusive organizations that you admire, according to you.
So there are so many actually across our country, but I would say the 3 that I've really liked over the past few years are Lalit, Goldman Sachs, and IBM. And all 3 have been doing great work over the years consistently, from before the judgment to after, nuanced work I'm talking specifically about LGBTQ in terms of that practice. Just in terms of, again, Lalit has really put their money where their heart is in terms of hiring, active hiring, and the kind of systems and structures that like a Goldman Sachs and IBM have done. I think we can learn from all 3 of them in terms of, just how to commit to the long term and, actually go out and do work.
IBM was part of Vivid, and we know that across the spectrum, for women, for people with disabilities, for accessibility, the kind of effort and thought process and the kind of design, even in hiring, that is there, we know it firsthand. So I can talk about them being really impressive. I really admire their work. Now, since I'm somebody who's working to create inclusive organizations, speaking about one, you're an author from the diversity spectrum. Would like to know if there are books, at least one, from an author from diversity spectrum that you would recommend.
So I would, of course you have to read Queeristan. It's incredible. But I would say, there are so many books by queer authors. I would say don't read other business books. One is enough. Read books about our lives and read books about various dimensions of our lives. I would say at this point, the most important book that anyone can read is Caste Matters by Suraj Yengde. Suraj is a friend, is an incredible scholar at Harvard right now, doing incredible work on the intersection of, say, caste and race, for example, working with Cornel West, a legendary African-American scholar at Harvard as well. But just, I think at this point, we need to understand the various ruptures that are happening in our country along, various dimensions. And I think, Caste Matters at this point is fundamental. And there are so many other books, right? If you want to read about trans lives, there are incredible autobiographies like that by Revati, or I Am Vidya by Living Smile Vidya. If you want to read about women, queer women, there's Loving Women by Maya Sharma, which talks about lives of rural lesbian women in contemporary India. So I would say there's a range of books. You don't have to read business books, because business, in a sense, should try and address the needs of society. So there are so many incredible books, whether it's even Caste Matters as well, is deeply autobiographical, right? I would say read autobiographical books about people's experiences. It will make you much more sensitive and a much better business person.
At the end of the day, every business is about people. It is about processes. We come to the final question of 10 of 10 at Economic. And now we are being self-serving and we are saying, what's your message to the economics team?
I would just say that I'm really proud of you. Building this infrastructure is really going to be the key for the future. In this book, I talk about Queeristan as an imaginary world, but also a real world. It's not just living in our minds. We are co-creating it every day with our practices, right? And what you are doing in using HR tech to empower the world, to help us be better, hire better, network better, I think is going to be fundamental. And again, this is what a lot of the global business thinking is about, right? When you enter an emerging space, many people in a startup space go about and build new entities, new startups. Some people build the pipes, build the infrastructure for the startup, so that many others can ride on this infrastructure. So what you all are doing is you all are helping build the pipes, which I think is amazing. So more power to you. I think 10 years from now, we're going to be looking back and you will just realize how important what your work is, and how, because you've done, economics, how many people have benefited because of this. So I can't wait to see the journey.
Thank you so much. And it's been brilliant. So far, out of both the interviews, this has been the most fun interview. Thank you so much.
Lots of love.